you want to understand why religion is doing so well in the world at the moment, I think you only need two sacred texts. One is Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations, in which he explains, and actually remarkably simply, why established clergy, i.e. ones who are sponsored by the state, will almost by design be less good at actually going out and pulling in souls than those who have to go and compete and live off their own collection plate. The second particular document, I would argue, is your own constitution. The First Amendment, the division of church and state, bred competition almost by itself. If you look back at the history of America, America, contrary to all that stuff you read about it being a city on the hill, was not that religious before the Revolution. If you want one example, if you go to Salem, the town which most people associate with the Crucible, in 1683, 83% of taxpayers there said they had no religious identification. The reason why was the Puritans had been joined by a lot of other less desirable people, many of them perhaps wrongly thrown out of Britain. But once the Constitution got hold of religion, it established a marketplace, and that was where America took off. In many ways, I think it still comes down to supply and demand. The demand is pretty simple, man for better or worse. And throughout this book, we make no value judgments about whether there is a God or there isn't. This is based purely on what is happening, not what should happen. Man is inclined to believe in a God. He's theotropic. In some cases, that's because of a desire for shelter. Go to rural India, or for that matter, Arkansas, and you'll find plenty of people who look on God as a kind of protection from the harsh worlds of globalization. By contrast, I think there is a bevy of studies which show that many people actually turn to religion as the way to get on in the world. There are an increasing amount of studies showing that religious people are happier, healthier, and wealthier than other sorts. There is a reason why Ned Flanders in The Simpsons is always smiling. It's no accident, I think, that America's best-selling religious book of recent times is called The Purpose-Driven Life. What on earth am I here for? Or think, just for the moment, of, I think, the new face of American religion, Barack Obama, a clever, well-educated young man searching for meaning and finding it in a Chicago church. If demand is still pushing in that direction, I think supply is also helping as well. Religion is now a gigantic industry. You have the megachurches, you have the pastor-preneurs. This is a business which knows how to segment and resegment. There is something for everyone. There are services for bikers, gays, and dropouts. You have the scum of the earth church in Colorado, a particular favourite of ours. You have Bibles for cowboys, brides, soldiers, and rap artists. Even though I walk through the hood of death, I don't back down, for you have my back. You have theme parks for every faith. This week you can go and visit the Golgotha Fun Park in Cave City, Kentucky, or the Ave Maria grotto, I think again in Kentucky. God casts, you name it. This is what America does spectacularly well. Now I think this model is spreading. It's spreading overseas. Already 5 of the 10 biggest megachurches in the world are in South Korea. As I mentioned, you have this huge explosion in China. In Latin America, you have the Pentecostals moving into the Catholic area, and you have, by the same token, the Catholics beginning to fight back. It's also moving across religions. You have Hindus also embracing the same sort of methods as the Americans have long used, and you're beginning to see Islam also doing the same thing. Islam has its own version of televangelists, some of them spectacularly successful. So it's not just American, and it's not just Christian. But I think at the heart of what's happening around the world at the moment, Christian America actually is the model. And that means, in the end, it comes down to pluralism. Even in places where it's more compulsory, people are still increasingly choosing the faith which they come into. They're not just going to the one they were born into. Even deciding not to go at all to church, this category that stretches from lazy stay-in-bed agnosticism to passionate atheism, that, I think, is part of this pluralism, because it involves people actually making decisions about their relationship to God. I think this makes a gigantic difference. People are choosing their faith, and if they choose their faith, they're not going to dump it. They're not going to leave it at home when they go to work. They're not going to leave it at home when they go to the voting booth. They're going to take it into public life. And that, I think, in essence, is where the trouble begins.